crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with a card featuring Gerda Steiner Designs clear stamp sets, and it is the Brush Bunny stamp set. It's one of the smaller stamp sets, great for Easter and at a nice affordable price, because I know that I don't use Easter sets a lot, so I do tend to like the smaller ones, but it has a really fun image of a little bunny painting and then the Easter eggs that you can have in painting, and that's what I'm going to be doing today, making it look like my bunny is painting some Easter eggs. So I'm starting by stamping my Easter eggs on some Canson 140-pound cold press watercolor paper using antique linen distressing. Then I'm going to be doing some watercoloring today with the AmazaPens. These are a precision tip pen, so they give you a really fine line, but they're perfect for watercoloring. They're some of the best pens I've found for watercoloring. They don't really leave lines if you really work them, but today I'm actually wanting to leave the lines there, and so I use that to my advantage. You could use distress markers for a similar look if you happen to have them, but I was much happier with the price and selection of these AmazaPens, given how much they are per marker, and you can buy them in a pack. Whereas, I think it's like $30 for 24 markers, whereas the distress markers are like $3 a marker. But anyway, I took the AmazaPens and I'm just scribbling over the egg. So I stamped it with the antique linen, which you can hardly see here on camera, but you can see it in real life. And I'm just literally scribbling over them in a striped pattern. There's no sort of technique to this because I want it to have a scribbled look. So that's what I'm going for at this particular time. If you didn't want that scribbled look and you wanted like a smooth watercolored stripe, you could still use the same pens, you could still scribble on. It's just that the way that you apply the water would be different because you would apply the water a little bit more precisely with a smaller brush. I have chosen a little selection of colors because I do want to keep it pretty consistent throughout the card, so I've used the same colors on multiple eggs, and I probably won't use all of these eggs on my card. I think in fact I wind up using just like 5 of them, but I wanted to have a nice selection of colors so that way when I layered them next to each other they would stand out. Then I am taking a wide paintbrush and I sprayed a little bit of water onto an acrylic block so that I can work from it. If you were working on your craft sheet, that would be great as well. I just find that it really kind of darkens the whole video. So I just spritz some water onto there, I'm picking it up with my brush, and I'm just swiping the brush along. I'm not worried about mixing the colors. In fact, I'm using the same brush across the whole thing, so even though when I swipe it across the blue area, that blue will go into the pink area, I'm just kind of letting that be. I'm going for a little bit more of a messy look, and also I don't want this to take too long. I don't want to be too fussy with it. I thought it would be great if I could make a whole bunch of eggs really quickly, and so that's my aim here. And I find that generally these colors that I picked work well together. However, certain ones like the green and brown, the green and purple can kind of make a little bit of a brown, so you have to be careful with certain ones and be careful about applying too much water as they might cause them to sort of leak into each other. If you wanted cleaner stripes, if you didn't want those scribble lines left behind, you'd want to get a smaller brush and work it just a little bit more. But if you like that scribbled line look that I get at the end, just lightly brush the paintbrush over that those eggs there. Then I stamped the bunny from the stamp set in some VersaFine ink because I wanted it to be waterproof. The My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink is also waterproof, so either one. I just get a slightly better impression on watercolor paper with the VersaFine. Then I also took this grass from the stamp set because I wanted to kind of make use of all the little features in that stamp set, and I'm stamping it with some Mowed Lawn Distress ink because I know again I'm going to be doing some watercoloring and that will sort of fade the lines a little bit. I wanted to make sure that I liked the way that it looked in the end and that that little gap between the two pieces of grass would be covered, and so I just kind of placed my eggs over and thought about where I wanted them to be. Once I was happy with that background area, I die cut it with a stitch rectangle die, and now I'm going to watercolor the background. Again, I'm going to keep it really simple because what's great about these AmazaPens is how well they react to water, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to work them easily and get rid of those scribble lines. So in this grass, you're not even going to see the lines. Even though I just scribbled marker onto there, you won't be able to see it. And I like that because I feel like it's kind of a way of having watercolor on the go. because you could just bring a water brush and that little pack of pens and be good to go. And I have a graph pad, a piece of graph paper underneath my work surface, and it's like a little pad that I got from Amazon, and I'll link you to it for sure. But over top of it, to do watercoloring, I just took a piece of plastic that's meant to be like a divider in a notebook, and I put it over the grid mat. Personally, I use the grid mat mostly because I'm filming and it brightens things up, but I do find that overall it's really useful to have that grid mat underneath your work surface, or to have a mat that has grids printed on it, so it helps you to line things up. And in this case, also when my work surface gets messy, I can just tear it off and I don't have to worry about it spreading everywhere. When I am working on this sky background, I liked how the precision pen meant that I could get just a teeny tiny touch of blue in between his face and his paintbrush, and being able to apply that color with that little tiny precision tip really made it a lot easier. Then I wanted a little bit of an ombre effect in the background, so I just took the darker blue marker and the lighter blue marker and scribbled them both on and then blended them together. I probably should have used a slightly larger brush because it does take a long time to color in the background when you're using such a small brush, and that's what led to a little bit of that sort of faded out effect there. You see there's like really harsh watercolor lines towards the top of the sky, and that's from it being wet in a particular place too long. So if you want maybe a smoother blend, you might want a larger brush so that you don't have as much time in between where you apply water and where you work it out. But that's just kind of something you learn to get used to with watercolor, how your brushes work and which ones are the right size. And sometimes you want to have two brushes for one project. However, I do really like this Kuretake Zig water brush because it has a pretty stiff bristle, and that allows me to get into small areas and control the color a little bit more. So I'll definitely be sure to link to that, as well as I had a couple people ask me about it in the past, and it is my personal favorite. But I do tend to dip it in water as opposed to use the water right from the brush. And I'm just, again, using the AmazaPens. There's a great color selection, even though there's only 24 colors in it, so it includes a gray. And with watercolor, you can make a gray lighter or darker depending on how much you add. So here I wanted to make that shadow deeper on his ear. So I just added a little bit more of the AmazaPen, and I could do it while the paper was wet. With distress markers, they don't really recommend you touching the distress marker to wet paper. But with the AmazaPens, I haven't had any trouble with that. So I just go in and add a little bit more color to that wet area, and I'm able to blend it out and add a little bit deeper of a shadow. I really love watercolor for that feature, being able to get a lot of variation from just one color marker. And these watercolors are not permanent, like the way that Inktense pencils are, which are really bright. But once they're dry, they're permanent. You can continue to add more and work it a little bit more with water. Once I had my bunny and background all colored, it's time to just glue on the eggs. I fussy cut those out just with some scissors, and once you add the water over the AmazaPens there, you actually are able to see that antique linen outline. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to see exactly where the line was, but it's very clear in the end, and you can trim it out, but you can trim close enough that it doesn't create a line around your finished product. And then I am doing a little bit of layering because I want to add just a touch of dimension, so I'm putting foam tape on the eggs that are towards the front and then gluing the ones on the back completely flat. And I made sure that his paintbrush was pink to coordinate with that pink egg right next to him. Now I'm just ready to add a sentiment and layer up this card before it's finished, because I wanted to make sure that my sentiment was really clear, and I knew that I was going to be using a thick sentiment. The sentiments in this set are nice and thick and bold. I do want to make sure that I get a great impression. And usually VersaFine gives me a fantastic impression the first time, but just in case I decided to put it inside of my MISTI and I wanted to stamp it more than one time, I'd be able to easily. However, you see, I got a perfect impression the first time, just from one stamping with the MISTI. I do go over it again, just to be sure, because like I said, I want to make sure things are perfect. And I'm, again, using that VersaFine ink because it is waterproof and because it stamps beautifully, even on that paper with a little bit of texture. I added some pink and purple background layers, and that is it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in the stamp set or any of the other products that I use, be be sure to check in the video description below. You can also check out my social media links and the Gerda Steiner Designs Facebook group and page there. Thanks for watching. Bye.